All right, we're going to start taking you through the sports pages this morning at 7:57 a.m. You're watching OTB AM. Feeling small, this is, so unfortunate, it's an own goal. But it's funny how Smalling gets the blame when there was a red card. Chris own goal and ref's 100th red sinks Ole. I mean, Mike Dean, you the man. Going nowhere, Delaney planning ahead despite calls to resign. This is in the aftermath of a podcast that John Delaney has done with Tip FM. Best plans, future talks this week. That's Rory Best. And the notion that he is not necessarily retiring from Ulster. GMAX return, Gary Murphy column. So that's what they have in the Mirror for us this morning.
The Irish Examiner leads with thrown to the Wolves. Huge setback for United in top four battle. And Cork question, GAA clubs reject left field championship plan but agree format changes. Kieran Shannon this morning is writing about Mayo. He says Horan proves you can experiment and win. Rory Best says we've got our little wake-up call with regards to the Ireland team. Spurs are set for their debut at a spectacular new stadium unveiled yesterday. And his course, his rules, Trump not safe from critics on the golf course.
So we don't always do the front page of the tabloids, but tab of the morning to you is Gunners and Riders, and then fetlocked and loaded. Cab feared gang swoop, racer was worth 400 grand. Armed Gardaí were sent to Punchestown to protect a Cheltenham winning horse seized from a convicted drug dealer, a court heard yesterday. The Criminal Assets Bureau are in a high court battle with Dublin drug pusher John Boylan over racehorse LeBake, who is at one stage allegedly worth more than 400 grand. LeBake is the one who would always have difficulty starting, but when actually made it to the start would not always win, but would very frequently just piss home because it was such an amazing horse, but was a little bit nervous at the start of races. That's Gunner hurt. Young off as Ole boys crash. You get it right. Party like it's 1999. Pep United show quads so hard. Why would you talk about the quadruple as much as Guardiola addressed it? Is that just because it's the elephant in the room and he wants to talk about it and get it out there?
Maybe he just wants to pump the chest out and be brash. I'm going to show the front page of the Irish Daily Star as well. Guns and Races is their headline of that story. Gordon Elliott's armed Garda escort at Punchestown over criminal gang fears, and John Delaney there is saying that he was doing the jobs of three men. The back page of the Star is Howler, Ole Ruse, United mistakes. Rebels shoot down proposal. Meanwhile, this is Cork GA's shooting down of the proposal to separate club and county players when it comes to certain county championship games in the county. We'll get more on that story later on. Rory Best, I wanted to crawl under a rock. Ireland captain Rory Best admits he was a little naive to attend the Belfast rape trial.
Wolves bite Ole again. Another Molyneux defeat for sloppy United. And Best Six Nations, the perfect wake-up call. We look at it as well and see what was different. Did we repair play differently? Did we take our eye off the ball with the World Cup? I've heard a few people refer back to 2007. But the beauty of it is this time, it's happened the Six Nations before. Is this going to be like the longest, slowest death by 1,000 cuts that any Irish sports team have ever had?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by 1,000 cuts, you could almost mean that literally in the sense of injuries. Is it going to be like, you can make comparison to 2007, but is it just the 2015 World Cup just on a grander scale? Just injuries after injuries potentially, I don't know. The Herald is Wolves feed on red slip. Misery at Molyneux for Ole as United's top four drive falters. And I can't stop quadruple dream, says Pep Guardiola, while John Aldridge this morning is writing about Van Dijk, saying his call was crucial to title.
I didn't see this story, but Dan Martin crashed in Catalonia? Yeah, in Barcelona during the week. Did you see this? And somebody nicked his Garmin off his bike.
I did not see that.
As he was on the ground, they came over, are you okay? Yoink. He's, he doesn't want it back. He just wants the training information. To the guy who stole my Garmin off my bike and I was picking myself up with the floor yesterday, please send the training file to Inigo San Milan, his coach. He needs the information. That's mad. His power motor, which was on the broken bike, was also nicked. Wow, people are good thieves. I mean, that's like top quality thievery. Jesus. Okay, so here you go. Best thought about giving up captaincy. Rory Best thought about giving up the captaincy in the aftermath of the Belfast rape trial, actually in the aftermath of appearing at it as opposed to after it happened. And I couldn't do three jobs, says Delaney. So John Delaney's broken his silence. He spoke with the Tip FM podcast and says that he was too busy to do all the three various functions, the international function, running the day-to-day operations, and then also basically performing the functions of the president of the FAI by attending the various functions up and down the country.
The Racing Post this morning leads with punter's right to plunge on Joe for entry, says confident Curtis. And Olympian Phelps is named new BHA chair, that's Anne-Marie Phelps. And the back page of the Racing Post this morning is answering the call. City can respond to Liverpool win with convincing victory. They're up against Cardiff tonight at 7:45.
Own goal since United. Best I thought about quitting as Irish captain over trial outcry, and FAI had Dundalk's 2.2 million prize money for 11 months. This is an exclusive from Dan McDonald, I think. It's definitely from Dan, I think it's an exclusive. The Irish Independent has learned the League of Ireland champions received their last payment from the FAI in the last week of November 2017. The same year, the association's financial position has come under scrutiny in light of the €100,000 bridging loan provided to the FAI by John Delaney in April of that year. Dundalk received 2.2 million of a European bonanza in November 2017, almost 11 months after the bulk of it was paid by UEFA to the FAI. Now, you read into this, and according to one FAI source, it's understood that Dundalk's owners, businessmen Andy Connolly and Paul Brown, were keen on an arrangement where the FAI would hold on to the European money and then release it upon request in the form of staggered payments. So it looks like this was what Dundalk asked for. The timing of it, I think, is the interesting part. So Dundalk earned a lot of money from UEFA and then asked for the payments to be made in staggered form to them, which seems like it's not that unusual. It's the timing and the connection to 2017, I think, is the interesting part.
The back page of The Guardian this morning is, we are in another dimension. Now it's time for Spurs to think like a big club, says Pochettino himself, and Daniel Levy pictured on the back page there. Flailing scenes in at Molineux. Wolves tear into United's top four bid as to beat them 2-1 last night. And Fulham down, Watford send Parker's men back to the Championship.
And then Wolves on the Rampage is the Telegraph, back page, the front page there. And then the back page is... it's about... I should have read that first. It's not that interesting. Where are we going here?
Let's talk about Jose Mourinho. He had no choice with Pog, says a headline here in the Irish Daily Star. It's carried across most of the newspapers this morning. Jose Mourinho speaking at a coaching seminar in Portugal recently. Thankfully, he was like you've been swanning the continent at conferences. Jose Mourinho's been doing the same thing over the last couple of days. So you and Jose in the same boat here, Ger. So in a thinly veiled swipe at a player he labelled His Excellency, the Portuguese suggested he would have been sent on vacation had he come down hard on the France midfielder. So after a game in Burnley, he said, Pogba left Turf Moor in his Rolls-Royce instead of travelling back to Manchester on the team bus. I thought from the outside looking in that Jose Mourinho did come down hard on Paul Pogba in whatever guise it may have been. Now I know handing him the captaincy and all that kind of goes against that notion, but it seemed that there was some sort of division in the dressing room that was caused by the fact that Jose maybe didn't get on too well with Paul Pogba, and Pogba had a bit of power to wield in the dressing room. So it is interesting. Like he says, after all, the car was new and His Excellency would like to leave the stadium in his Rolls-Royce. Now, how do we deal with this? You tell him never go in the Rolls. You can go when I'm happy, or you solve this thing in another way to get me on vacation. So
He means to get fired.
Yeah, and by His Excellency. He doesn't actually mention Pogba by name, it seems, but I think you can put two and two together here. And indeed, all the headlines are actually just mentioning Pogba. Is it like, from what we've seen over the last few weeks, I certainly would have been on Paul Pogba's side in all of this, not knowing much information about it, only little leaks here and there during the Jose Mourinho reign. But over the last couple of weeks, after the little public unnecessary flirtation with Real Madrid, I feel, and now this, like there are sort of unnecessary elements of this Paul Pogba story, where, like, why can't you just leave on the team bus with the rest of your teammates? Why are you driving your car? Why doesn't anybody else get that? Like, why are you...
No, it has to be the same for everybody.
Exactly. Why are you speaking about joining Real Madrid? Granted, you're not under Manchester United media rules or whatever at the time. I don't know. My opinion on Paul Pogba is shifting here towards the idea that perhaps he isn't the greatest influence on a dressing room.
So, the thing to do now is cash in the summer, right? You've got a new regime, who's the old regime at Real Madrid back, who obviously have very strong French connections, and there's an opportunity to get your money back and reinvest that in somebody else.
Who is that person? What is the reinvestment, and can they get that person? Because what we've seen...
I'm not a football scout, right? And I don't know the best 17 to 19 to 21-year-olds in the world that are like just coming up to the level where Manchester United should be investing in them, as opposed to trying to sign the next Paul Pogba who's already made it, or the next... any of those players that they've signed in recent seasons who haven't fit in properly. You think Angel Di Maria, and that tier of player who are probably either just going to make it or are going to fail. Sign 5 of the best 21 to 23-year-olds in the world and use your scouting department to find out who they are and invest the money that way.
That's fine in a mid-term sense, but in the short term, what we've seen, like just even looking back on the evidence that we have in front of us last night, Manchester United need serious investment this summer if they want to contend next year. They need serious investment. They may be in a situation going into August where they need to get back into the Champions League. If you add on the fact that they've lost Paul Pogba, one of their most talented players, if not their most talented player this summer, then they're in a situation where they've got a mountain to climb in terms of investment, in terms of recruitment.
Yeah, but you're signing good players. I'm saying like good players, 3 of whom will go on to become world class, 2 of whom won't work out. But you're giving yourself the shot at succeeding.
Yeah, it's I guess it's kind of like Manchester City signing Leroy Sané. That's the sort of level you're talking about. Somebody who is a long-term investment, but with kind of a short-term achievement potential. The only thing is, it probably will, or at that age profile, it probably will take a season or 2 to do so. Like, I mean, they can sign somebody of the Angel Di Maria ilk, and it cannot be a disaster. It can actually work out. You know, they can actually make a Mohamed Salah-esque signing potentially, not at that level, because that may never happen again in the Premier League, where somebody is signed at a level where they're said to be very, very good, and they end up being completely world class and one of the best players in the world. So that's an outrageous situation of success. I'm saying that they can spend big and it can work. The thing is, if you're looking at pure talent, you've got to keep Paul Pogba. But from what we're reading here, is it worth that?
No, I don't think you do. So if you like, Salah is a good example where Liverpool took shots, one of them lands, and everything else that happens is considered a success because it's part of that overall strategy. That when you get a player like Salah, you can then happily also spend at the Van Dijk level. So sure, Man United need to spend at Van Dijk level and go, you're the best in the world in your position, we're going to sign you, or we believe you will be, and so therefore that's the price that we're paying. But they should definitely be trying to give themselves more opportunities at success than signing a single player and putting all the eggs in the basket of whoever it is. And no more piano reveals, please, for players who ultimately go on to become not great.
Are you saying that that's the reason why, you know, the modern footballer is getting carried away, piano reveals, stupid social media ruining everything, Ger?
That's not it. It's I think that I'd like to see you do some stuff before you. Rory Best thought about giving up the captaincy. So an interesting press conference. Rory Best was at Specsavers. He was doing a launch for Specsavers hearing aids, and was interviewed by all the media yesterday. So. In the immediate aftermath of last year's dramatic Six Nations win over France in Paris, Best began the post-match press conference with a scripted explanation of his attendance, and he now says that he thought long and hard of stepping down. I think in Paris, ultimately, it's pressure, isn't it? You kind of felt that all this pressure is being heaped on you. That game was probably the least enjoyable win I've had with Ireland. There was just so much pressure on. I was aware of it all and everything surrounding it. There was no escape from it because of the magnitude of everything that surrounded it. The introduction to the press conference was really something where I felt that too many people around me were getting fired at. I wanted to make sure that people were aware of the situation as to why I went. It was important that rather than being grilled about it, that I said, look, this is what happened. I don't want to talk about it anymore because it's being played out in so many other areas. They're the moments when you are there going, I've done a lot. Maybe this is the sign to say, just go. It's one of those times when you feel that the spotlight is on you and all you really want to do, all your instincts wants to do is, for want of a better expression, crawl under a rock somewhere. And then when you come out, you hope that it's all gone away. That's what your instinct is. But then you also know, and I hope it's the kind of personality that I have, it was never going to be an option. I felt as long as I had the support from my peers and my coaches, it's a dream of mine to do it, to captain Ireland at the World Cup, and I don't want to give it up. Yeah, it's an interesting time to reopen that whole discussion, because the discussion doesn't really go away. Like, the questions still persist about, was it the right thing to do as the captain of Ireland? And that same question, you weren't just as a private individual going there, because that point you're making about it being your lifelong dream to be the coach or to be the captain of Ireland at the World Cup. You will be the captain of Ireland at the World Cup, and you were the captain of Ireland in the court that day. And that's the bit that I think isn't quite addressed in this bit here. And so until that bit gets answered, I think that question will persist.
I think I'm not sure that you actually get to this quote, just in terms of I guess, the symbolic value of being Ireland rugby captain. He says that nobody wants to be in that position, especially when you're representing an island. I suppose I was a little naive after all that time to think that pressure only comes with rugby in terms of your performance. There are external pressures that you don't ever foresee coming up. So suggesting they're naive to think that pressures only comes with the performance as being the hooker for Ireland, as being the captain for Ireland, and what you're doing on the pitch, that he perhaps didn't see the bigger picture.
Yeah, because that was the game when Not My Captain was trending up until the Le Drop. And obviously, the outside pressure did have an impact. So it's good that the outside pressure had an impact and that he was aware of it, because obviously it was such a big story. And it does point out that, I don't know if we actually invest too much in the role of captaincy. That whole England football captain thing has always been, to my mind, a complete nonsense. And maybe we need to take down the whole notion of being Ireland rugby captain a little bit, except he feels it. And so therefore he understands that there is a power to be wielded by being the Ireland rugby captain, and that it's not appropriate, I don't think, in the middle of a trial to represent the Ireland rugby team in that way. And I think that maybe is where that one needs to continue to be talked about. So there was one last story. We're going to talk about the Ireland back row.
Yeah, the Ireland back row is where we're going next. Obviously, Dan Levy's injury at the weekend is completely, I don't want to say scuppered our dreams of squad depth, but you made the point at the start of the show about death by 1,000 cuts. Like, it's sort of looking at this thing on the back of a pretty poor Six Nations, the sense of mortality once again, the sense that, the idea of depth is only as good as how fit all your ducks in a row are. And really, at this situation, are we now saying that the back row that Ireland have it contains a lot of depth? Are we saying that it is
no,
the
depth
best?
is gone.
But that is because of one World Cup ending injury. And I guess that's what it's all predicated on anyway in the first place, isn't it?
Well, because we thought that we needed Dan Levy to get back in that team, because Levy was close to being our player of the tournament last year when we won the Six Nations, and seemed like he had become irreplaceable. And actually, the form of everybody else, while it's decent, wasn't at Levy's standard as it was last year. And you can't, this is okay. Levy will come back, and O'Brien and Van der Fleer will be the depth. And even the short cameo that he had at the weekend, which was like really the first time we'd seen him in ages. There's Quinlan's depth chart from pre-Six Nations. I mean, I would have had them reversed, to be honest. But that was just because Levy hadn't played in so long. Like, he had the potential to be the best back rower in the world. And
look at the injury profile of those three open sides now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence.
I was just about to say.
Most attritional. It's like a running back in football. And you just bang, bang, bang the whole time. Tackle, tackle, tackle. And you're always there where somebody can roll you. I'd say they've all had fairly similar injuries. Van der Fleer was injured in a ruck when somebody lifted him and fecked him out of the way. That's where he tore his groin, and Levy's at the back of a ruck as well. So maybe those new rule changes have to happen, and rugby's going to become rugby league, and we're just going to have to get used to it, because it's ruining too many careers. Done?
Yeah.
All right.